we still need to do more, because if we look at it side by side with the awareness we put into election announcements, election issue, we have not done half of that. So I personally think that we should go more to the grassroots. The way our chairman, our government goes to the grassroots to talk to people in their street, I think we should do that for the tax law.
The government has not actually provided a lot of jobs for people, so taxing them for every transaction, taxing them for everything they do, it's going to be a little bit complicated. But I believe if we could be fully educated about how this tax will be, how much will be taxed from our money, why they are taxing, and which aspects of it will be taxed for, it will be better.
But obviously, Nigeria say virtually we don't even collect more tax anyway. But at this point, they're just trying to bring more tax in so that they can actually have more revenue.
Based on the economic situation of Nigeria, 20% from our taxes is really killing a lot of people. So I would suggest, though I might not really speak for 70% of Nigerians, but I speak for what I know around my region, my environment. A lot of people are already complaining about the tax situation. And probably through the BVN and our NIN, the money will just be extracted from our account even without us knowing.
From what I read so far concerning the new tax law, I just feel that the new tax law has come to favor people who are not earning up to 800,000. Somebody like me that is a teacher, that is not earning much. I know before now, at least there's a specific percentage that is being deducted from my salary every month, which is allocated for tax. But as it is now, since the new law says if you are earning from 800,000 and above, that is when you'll be paying tax. I think the law is favorable to me, because if I calculate my annual income, it is not even up to that, which means now I won't have to pay tax. But before I was paying tax, so it is a good thing. I just hope it continues that way.
For every money earned, that's what I had, and I think it has been implemented this year. So 1st January. Although I don't know about us that I think it's salary earners that it will affect most and rich people. But for we that we are at the low level like this, I think we've escaped that tax.
What I have had so far was that whenever we made transfer to people, maybe they are going to be deducting money from me, the depositor, or maybe whenever the money enter the depositors at the receiver's accounts, maybe they are going to be deducting from the both of us. That's what I understand by that. But I don't really know the essence of what they are really explaining. Basically, I don't know where the deduction will be coming from. Maybe it's from me or from the receiver.
It's real. You paid stamp duty, the charges, from 10,000 naira upward. Any transaction you do that is from 10,000 naira upward, I think you have to pay stamp duty for it. I think it's 50 naira or thereabout.
Me, I'm not an economist and I'm not a tax expert, so I cannot really analyze exactly how its implementation is going to be carried out. But I will definitely know how it will affect my finances based on the charges that are applicable. Like I have seen the change in the new stamp duty on my transactions is now taken from the source, no longer from the recipient end. That I have seen its effect. So I'm waiting the end of months to see how much I will be taking as the charge for the tax. So I will know how to reprogram and know how to manage my resources and finances.
Well, the tax law is no longer in news. It's known everywhere, even the grassroots, the pepper seller, everybody knows about it. Even the social media, a lot of people are aware of it. It has been. But the only thing I fought the government is that the national orientation, they are supposed to do it in various languages, which they failed to do. They didn't even do advertisement of it. which is not the best way to promote whatever the government wants to do. In that area, I'm going to fault the National Orientation Agency. I'm going to fault that, and that is actually on that aspect. But everybody know that the tax law has taken effect from 1st of January 2026. However, you look at, I was within the week, this new year, I went to a bank to do certain transaction, and the owner of the school was telling that, please don't transfer money into the school account to bring cash. And I began to wonder that what is that's not the element of this new tax reform. What the government have said is that from 801, you have what they call consolidated relief of 500,000. When you remove 500,000 from 801, you understand that's 801,000. You are going to have close to about 301. You understand? That's what you are going to have. And they will now charge the taxable income on that figure. Then individuals, the companies, if your turnover is not up to 100 million above, you cannot pay VAT. You cannot pay it. All these things are, but our own concern is that this government cannot be trusted. The government cannot be trusted because in the sense that the fuel subsidy, they've not been able to manage it. Give us an account of it. They don't have it, and that's why people does not trust this government. That's my own humble take, sir.
Hello everyone, welcome to WebTV Focus program. I am Gabriel, Jude from Lagos, Nigeria. Happy New Year to you, and thank you for being part of our conversation last year. And we are eager to have insightful and enlightening sessions this year. The new year has begun with the debate around the Tax Reform Act. You have also heard from some Nigerians in the Vox Populi, which is why we are here to examine the issues and how they affect you, the household. That is my constituency, I say. On 26 June 2025, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu signed the 4 tax reform bill into law. This law includes the Nigerian Tax Act, the Nigerian Tax Administration Act, the Nigerian Revenue Service Act, and the Joint Revenue Board Act, collectively refers to as the Nigerian Tax Act. Hereafter, the act comprehensively overhauled the Nigerian tax landscape to drive economic growth, increase revenue, improve business environment, and enhance effective tax administration across all levels of government. Some of its features include a more progressive personal income tax regime for individuals earning 800,000 naira or less per annum, who are now exempt from tax on their income and gains. In contrast, higher income earners will be taxed at a rate up to 25%. VAT at a zero rate on essential goods and services such as basic food items, medical and pharmaceutical products, educational books and materials, electricity generation and transmission services, medical equipment and services, tuition fees, export, excluding oil and gas export, among many others. To provide more insight on this, I have Mr. Jamiu Fatoyinbo. He is a principal consultant, the FAT Professional Service. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And he will be discussing on Nigerian Tax Act, citizens' awareness, and implications for the economy. We have seen what the Vox Populi have identified to us, and we have a lot of misinformation there. And I want to start with these tax reforms, what it means to Nigerians, and what are the benefits to the household entirely.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Jude. So on the tax reform, as you have rightly said, on June 2025, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria signed into law 4 tax laws, collectively known as the new Nigerian tax reform. And what this law simply means for Nigerians is to stimulate our economy and also ensure that we experience what we call economic growth in more reality terms. And also for the household, a series of benefits. One of them is the fact that household will now have more disposable income for themselves. So which means that there is more money to spend so far you are low income earners. And we should also not forget to mention that one of the goals of this tax reform is to ensure that we do not tax poverty. People earning minimum wage are not meant to be paying tax because ordinarily, to survive in this country alone, you need more than the minimum wage. One of the things I'm going to mention is there is going to be more income for low income earners because their income, so far you didn't cross the tax threshold, you will not pay tax. And secondly, is that for loss of employment, now we now have exemptions for people that get paid up to 50 million naira. Earlier on, what we have is 10 million. So which means that if you lose your job or you suffer some kind of injury at the point of disposing your duty and you get paid a compensation, you get exempted from that compensation. So far, the compensation is not more than 50 million naira. But earlier on, what we have is 10 million naira. So generally, the new tax reform is coming to increase the tax base, ensure that we didn't tax poverty, and give us economic growth, and at the same time stimulate our economy in more reality terms.
We're going to leverage on that, being that we shouldn't tax poverty. Yeah. I like that statement. We shouldn't tax poverty. It's very profound. But at a time where the country is going through microeconomic reforms to stabilize the economy, what role will the implementation of this tax reform play in the accelerating economic activities?
I think now is the best time, right, for the new tax reform because one, company that has total income of 100 million naira and below, they are not going to pay tax. What does that mean? It simply means that those companies have more money for reinvestment, which in turn helps the economy. And at the same time, they create more jobs, right? Then for individuals, so far you have income less than 800,000, as I said earlier. You're also not going to pay tax. So you have more disposable income for yourself. You can cater for yourself and your family.
But then let's look at the provisions, right? On the tax. So we have companies income tax, we have capital gain tax, and we have newly introduced development levy. These are companies with, annual gross turnover of 1 million naira. Previously used to be 25 million naira. And then total fixed asset not exceeding 250 million naira, So is this practical at all? Because when you look at the rate of businesses, when you look at the percentage of businesses in Nigeria, we have more nano and micro businesses. So how is it going to be? Is it practical at all? So when you want to do analysis of these things, so I think that we'll have more nano businesses, more businesses left out. So how is it going to be with this?
Okay, to answer your question straight, is very, very practical. I personally just think the government needs to be strategic about it. And what do I mean by that? First, on the area of orientation, giving tax education to people, I think the government collectively hasn't done much in that area. But I personally give kudos to Mr. Taiwo Idele for what he has done because he is like the face of the new tax law. In fact, when you go closer to people, and was not like last week, someone was listening to a radio beside me, and this man was speaking. The next night, this man don't start again. Right? Government don't start again. So he's practically the face of the new tax law. And a lot of interviews, a lot of sessions that this man has done. But looking at our population, I think we still need to do more as consultants, as radio station, as government officials, we need to do more to ensure that people are properly educated. And another area is the time span. Personally, for me, I think is short. 6 months for implementation is short. Looking at the population side that we have, considering the rural area in this country, I think 6 months is too short because you sign into law June, then you're coming January to start implementation. Fine. Since then, tax education series of sessions have been coming up, but that 6 month span is too small. I think we should do more.
Do you trust the implementation process and the force behind it? Because I know, in other words, let's try to avert the issue of corruption, right? So like I said earlier about the high percentage of businesses we have nano and micro businesses. So, and subsequently, let's look at in this provision. I think that maybe somehow, don't you think that people or some companies can hide under this umbrella of being nano? And then how do you trust the implementation, the enforcement, and the track of activities to as regards to this so we have credibility and accountability?
Okay, so on the implementation, I trust the implementation process. The reason is because every company operates, more than 50% of Nigeria operate a bank account. And so your bank account is your BVN and your NIN. Although this is not to deduct tax from your account. This is for the government to be able to track what you are making. So you don't come at the end of the year and say you make 100 million. But we saw what you have done based on what you have spent. So you are claiming you are doing a self-return of 100 million. And we saw that during the year, you bought something of 150 million, you bought this of another 50 million, making 200 million, 250 million. So where is the excess coming from? So that is where I think governments will be using a bank account just to track the income. And when it comes to deducting the tax, government would not directly deduct the tax from your account without notifications. They have to call you for questions. Okay, we saw this amount in your account. When you file for your taxes, this is the amount you stated. So come and explain the difference. Series of, after a long of time, you did not respond. I think that is when government will now come in to make the deduction. But it will not be at immediate point. It won't be. So the other problem that many people have with this tax is the fact that we do not trust Nigerian government. As someone has said during the interview, what is the account for the subsidy? We never. So that's the trust issue. Every Nigerian have trust issue with the government. So that is the problem. So, but with implementation, I think there are going to be procedures as to how we are going to put structures in place to ensure we have smooth implementation. Because our problem, I keep telling people that in this country, our problem is not that we don't have law. We have laws, but the problem we have is implementing those laws correctly. So we should not forget that Nigerians, like us, like you and I, are the people that will be at the end of implementing. So if I know someone at NRS or LRS, and I can walk up that person and say, Jude, look at this. This is my income. How can we arrange this? I didn't want to pay more than this amount. That's where the problem starts. So if on the end of the tax authority, they can monitor their employees not to boycott the tax implementation, then I think we are fine as a Nigerian. We are fine as country. We are fine as individual regarding the tax law. But we only have to beg the government for proper accountability.
What have you seen actually, as a principal consultant? So I know that what you do most is of tax, you are a professional. What have you seen? Do you see any lights, because we just like a shining star, stars that give directions to, wise men. Do you see any star shining that this implementation is going to be on the brighter side?
For in that area, I think I started seeing stars. And what do I mean? Because the major goal or the major reason why this tax is not going to work is in the area of records. If companies do not have proper records, it becomes a problem. Because when we talk about your tax is not based on your total income. The income is just a threshold for okay, once you earn this amount, you are paying tax. But the tax you are paying is not on that amount. For company is on the taxable profits. And for us to determine taxable profit, you have to remove your business expenses. If you have your capital allowance, remove it, then we arrive at your taxable profit. That is what your tax will be on. So even if you make 200 million turnover, we have to remove all your business expenses, including your direct costs, your admin expenses, your selling and distribution expenses. Remove all of that, then charge your capital allowance, bring it down to, let's say, about 50 million naira taxable profit. It is that 50 million taxable profit you are going to pay tax on, not the total amount of sales. Then for individuals, if your salary is, let's say, 200,000 naira, you are not paying tax on that 200,000. You are paying tax on your chargeable income. So for individual that do 9 to 5, the burden of their tax rests on the employers majorly, because it is the employer that's supposed to deduct the tax and give them the take-home pay. Deduct the tax, remit to the tax authority. But for business owner, majorly the nano and micro business owner, inability of them to keep proper record will be a serious problem. And like I said earlier, I've been seeing stars, because 2 weeks ago, I got called by a number of business owners, started talking about their records, how to start putting their books in place. And I believe other business owners, other consultants like me are also saying that. So for me, I think it's a shining light, although it's really dim, but it's shining.
We need a shining star. We need a shining star, yes. Because wise men cannot work without shining star, so we need a shining star. So let's talk about personal income tax. It states that individuals earning 800,000 naira per annum will now be exempt from, tax on their income gains, while income earners will be taxed at the higher, those that earn higher, taxed at 25%. So the act also increased the tax exemption threshold for compensation for loss of employment and injuries from 10 million naira to 50 million naira.
Yes.
So could you shed more light on this?
Okay, so for the company tax, like you said, for any company that is earning 100 million or less in a year, not monthly basis, in a year, at the end of the whole year, you pull your total sales together, total turnover is less than 100 million or is 100 million cap. You are exempted from company income tax, value-added tax, and even the new development levy. But once you cross that threshold, you will now pay tax. And like I said earlier, it is not under your income. It has to be on your taxable profits. Therefore, individuals earning below 800,000, their income is exempted from tax. But once you earn above, and again, even in that area, when you earn above 800,000 naira.
So if you have 800,001, you are paying more tax. So is from 800 down.
Yes.
Okay.
800,001. Let's say 8,000. Let's say 100. You are paying tax on the 100. That is if you do not have any relief. Because from 800,000 you are still going to pay rent. So you get a rent relief, which is 20% of the annual rent that you are paying to, and you have to be able to give evidence of that rent payment. So we can verify, okay, this is the amount that you have paid as rent, this is what you are getting as relief. So once you remove the 20% of your rent, your 800,000 drop further. You find yourself not paying any tax. So that, and also on the last one, on the area of employment compensation when you suffer loss or injury, the threshold is now 50 million naira, which is more than 100% compared to what we have before. What we have before is 10 million. That has been increased to 50 million, which means that people now have more income for themselves.
So people who earn more than 800,000 naira, so before you pay tax, you have to do some deductions, right? So I think house rent is there.
Yes.
All right. So don't you think that maybe companies can inculcate this? Maybe, for example, now collecting details of how to pay your rent, so deduct. Because at the end of the day, people who earn higher than 800,000 per annum. So when they pay tax, there is house rent there, and most companies who don't give. I know that some companies have a record of rent for their staff who are helping them, assisting them on rent. But those that do not have, when you deduct your house rent from it, so you might even go below 800,000. So don't you think that the company, and maybe there is a way we could just include this and so to relieve, because you said that we are not taxing poverty.
Yes. So I think one thing is you can hide from tax, right? But you cannot run. That's one. Secondly is most companies don't pay rent for their employee. Even for companies that do, right? It means that rent payment will be included as part of what we are paying the employee. So it's part of the income of the employee. That's what it simply means. Because by definition of total emolument, that is what we are paying, the total reward remuneration that the employee is getting for the employer. So when you pay rent for the employee, it is assumed to be as part of the income. So the rent payment that goes to the landlord, what you are now getting is 20% of that rent amount. That's what you are getting. So secondly is that for companies that want to maybe find their way or try to manage your system, like I said, you can hide, but you cannot run away. The system will definitely catch up with you.
Let's run through VAT at zero rate on essential food items. So we have basic food items, we have medical and pharmaceutical products, education books and materials, electricity generation. We have transmission services like paying NEPA bill and all of that, medical equipment and services. Even though it's not specified, so I don't know which one, maybe drugs or some kind of product for medical tuition fees and export, but the exemption of import oil and gas export. So, and from the Vox Populi, you heard some person said that school tuition fee, they were asked not to pay to the bank because of tax. So, I mean, what would you say to this? And regarding the manufacturer's VAT, because I was in a meeting where Taiwo Oyedele, in a press conference, when he was talking about the tax for raw materials when you're producing as a manufacturer. So the VAT on the raw materials you should calculate them and come to the government to collect your pay, and then you shouldn't add to what you're producing.
Yes.
So how do you think about this? Do you see that this is gonna work, and what should they do, but particularly and for households, for people who will be buying all this stuff too? What is your take for it?
Yeah, I think it's going to work, right? In fact, most of the area of tax law will definitely work, my belief. Now, on the area of VAT, the new tax law has come to broaden the exempted VATable goods and services. Like we now have much more things under it compared to what we had before. So for the manufacturer, my advice is they should engage a professional, right, to ensure that they properly classify their purchases under VATable and exempted. So once you put your exempted together, then you go to the government, according to the tax law, right, you get refund. But what I believe is practicable is we have something we call withholding tax credits, kind of like offsetting your income tax. So because manufacturer, one way or the other, they also pay tax. So when you have VAT credits, government is meant to refund you of what you have spent, or what you have paid at VAT. Now, what I think is practicable is you can use that VAT credit to offset your income tax. So it will now look like what we have with withholding tax. So if I have 1 million naira as tax and I have a credit of 100,000, right? That means I will only pay 900,000 as tax. That's what it means. And if I have 1 million naira as VAT credit and I have tax of 100,000, that means I'm not going to pay tax. The 900,000 balance, I carry it to the next year for my tax. That is what I believe is practicable and what it should be done.
Okay, so for the sake of this program, right, I'm more interested in what concerns the household. You know, so for people who produce like things like bread, you have aggregate bread, all of those things, snacks and all of that. You know, so they buy flour.
Yes.
All right. So how would they do this? Because I don't think that is that some kind of raw material so that that they need to go collect their VAT from the government, or how do they? Because we expect that with this provision things should go down for the household. So if bread were 70 naira because of VAT, less for like unlike 2025 that we had increment. Now it should, for this with this provision now, it should be like 15 naira also. What is your take on that?
Okay,
those
so
kind of companies?
on those kind of businesses, most of them are roadside businesses. Most of them. And what the tax reform committee has in arrangement is to kind of issue, they will register for tax, because it is only when you are within the tax net. Now, when you are within the tax net, doesn't mean that you have to pay tax. Just a way of saying, okay, government know about your business, you are registered, we know what you are doing, we know what you are earning. So we know, so that we can track when you qualify to pay tax and when you are not to pay tax. So for those kind of businesses, they will be given a kind of like sticker, maybe that says VAT exempt, or a kind of like certificate that shows that they are exempted from taxes. That is what they are expected to do. So once they pay tax, since they are registered under the tax law, you go to the government, maybe the NIRS, to get your VAT credits. It's just as simple as that. Definitely.
So let's talk about awareness. Very important, because we heard what Vox Populi gave to us, and to your advice to Nigerian Revenue Service. I mean, and critical stakeholders in this, and especially the issue of bank transaction, because I have a lot of people in my area. You know, some kind of people that work this industry, manufacturing industry, factories and all of that, are saying they will not put money in their bank account. Government wants to eat their money. Government wants to collect their money. They are trying to survive. So what? And you heard some people talk about it, that they will deduct your money from NIN and whatever thing, BVN and all of that. So what could you say? And awareness, key, very important.
So I think on the awareness, like I said earlier, we still need to do more, because when you check our social medias, fake information on the tax law spread much more faster than the right and the correct information. That's the problem that we have. I've seen a lot of fake news about this tax law. For example, somebody will tell you that, okay, every month government will deduct tax from your account. That's not possible. Because the tax is based on an annual basis, right? What I earn in a month, after all my expenses, what's my profit? That is what the tax will be on. The only amount that goes out of your bank account is going to be the stamp duty. And now I've seen that implemented as well. That earlier on, we have the receiver paying the stamp duty. Now, according to, I think, a report that says that we have more sender than receiver. That was the reason why we changed the stamp duty payment to the sender, not the receiver again. So when I send money to your account, so far the amount is more than 10,000 naira, I pay the stamp duty.
I hope you're not targeting people from abroad sending money to home.
If people from abroad send money to Nigeria, they get tax on it. If you send to a Nigeria bank account, you pay tax on it. But the real issue here is, when those people have businesses in Nigeria, they must also pay tax here.
Okay.
And on the awareness, like I said, we still need to do more, because if we look at it side by side with the awareness we put into election announcements, election issue, we have not done half of that. So I personally think that we should go more to the grassroots. the way our chairman, our government goes to the grassroots to talk to people in their street, I think we should do that for the tax law. Let's go into the grassroots, explain the tax law. If you don't have information about the tax law, carry an expert along. You are the chairman of that local government. Carry a tax expert from that local government along. Let that person explain. So we don't just come to the people during election. This is the time the people need us to explain to them as well.
And involve village head and all of that.
Exactly.
Okay. So I agree with you. Actually, we need more advocacy, more awareness, because in the Vox Populi, somebody say he wants to fight the National Orientation Agency, and me, I don't want anybody to fight anybody. So I think we need to do more, and this conversation is not going to. It's been an interesting conversation after all, but it's not stopping here. We need to do more because as we speak, it's already going on. The implementation is already there. We have already started. So deduction have started. And like I was telling someone on the street that if you don't understand, make sure you understand because it has started, it has begun.
Yes.
So you have to understand so that if you don't understand, it's at your risk. If you understand, it has your what? It has your enjoyment.
Exactly.
So we need more, but as individuals, as government, we need to do more. Thank you so much for coming on this program. Indeed, this is a new year. I didn't ask you for Happy New Year from the beginning, but then my apologies. But Happy New Year to you, and thank you so much. I believe that when we call you next time, you'll blush and do this with us. Thank you so much.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So
right, and that will be all for this edition of WebTV Focus. This year has been an interesting year. Impact a lot of impact issues on tax, and so I employ for those who understand what it is, this Tax Reform Act is. Please do well to put more awareness, educate people around you, and because it's very, very important. Information is not to be held, it is to be disseminated. And then for more information on finance, the market, banking, the economy, and investing, please visit Proshare website, WebTV, YouTube, and follow our social media platform on the screen. Thank you everyone for watching. I am Gabriel Jude, and bye for now.